So Joe Rogan's had some controversies lately, and he's called his critics alt-right. So anyone that is criticizing him is now an alt-right troll, is basically what he's trying to say. We'll get to that in a little bit, along with some of his other recent controversies. But Joe Rogan, he's a guy that I don't listen to his podcast. I don't really admire him. I don't hate him or anything like that. But I just realized that he's a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about a lot of the time. A good example of that is, well, he's famous as the UFC commentator, and he's supposed to have expertise on MMA, but really he doesn't even know a lot about that. 5 to 10 years ago in his commentary, something that he would consistently say was, Greco-Roman wrestling is the most effective form of wrestling for MMA. Well, how are people being taken down in MMA? 90% of MMA takedowns are probably just either a basic double leg takedown or a single leg takedown, both of which are illegal in Greco-Roman because you're not allowed to grab the legs. But he would always put that out there, and he has all these fans that take his word as gospel because they think he is very knowledgeable. And then you'd see other people repeating that nonsense when clearly, if you know anything about wrestling whatsoever, you realize this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But on his podcast, he frequently talks about things that he has no idea of. He speaks as an authority on them, at least in an authoritative tone of voice, which is very convincing to people. But I don't watch his podcast, and I've known that for years that Joe Rogan's been a shill. And now with his recent controversies, the mainstream is starting to catch on more and more in that. And when I do watch his podcast, I only generally watch when Eddie Bravo is going to be on. Eddie Bravo is a guy that has been very good friends with Joe Rogan for years, and Joe Rogan actually helped this guy start up his business and helped make him famous. Now, Eddie Bravo, he's an interesting guy. He's a well-meaning guy. He's into all these conspiracies, and some of them he's even into the really far-out conspiracy theories. And he's a guy that he's not harmful. He's very entertaining. And the thing about conspiracies is, the main thing to take away is, even if these guys that are into the conspiracy theories, they're not right, the point is you shouldn't just trust the official story of things. You should be questioning and looking for answers. But in recent years, the last couple of years, whenever he has Eddie Bravo on, this is a guy that's supposed to be his good friend. He treats him like a child, like he's a stupid idiot. Anytime he brings up something, it's absolutely ridiculous the way he treats his own friend. And that's because Joe Rogan is very much a shill that wants to put out the official story. He doesn't like people that go against at least certain narratives. But he's had some recent controversies lately, and mainly his podcast where he had Jack Dorsey on, where you can see there 66,000 thumbs down to 10,000 thumbs up. Well, I would actually say that that's a scandal. I mean, 66,000 thumbs down and only 10,000 thumbs up. People clearly did not like this podcast the way he was overly friendly to Jack Dorsey. It really gave Jack Dorsey a platform to spew nonsense and didn't ask any really hard questions. If he asked any questions that were hard at all, he would actually ask it in a very soft way. And often before Jack could even have a chance of answering it, Joe would start answering it for him to some extent. And this is not the first time he's had a video that's so extremely disliked. Just a month or so ago, he had a podcast with Jeff Nowitzki where people were in the comments, they were calling him a shill and everything. You can see on this one, 27,000 thumbs down to 12,000 thumbs up. So there you go. This is not the first time, even recently, he had a dislike thing. But now he had a podcast where he had his former assistant, Brian Redban, on, where, obviously this is going to be a very friendly audience when he tries to explain his podcast with Jack, because he has a yes man. That's basically, but let's see what Joe has to say.
That there should be a road to redemption. I think if you've got something that's important as Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, if you're not stealing someone's stuff, like, using copyrighted music or something on an Instagram page where you get banned over and over again for doing it, but you keep doing it. If it's not something like that, if it's an ideological difference, if you crossed a line, that they decided was a line, you should be able to work your way back. There should be a way where you can sign up again.
You mean like get a new email address?
I don't mean that, man. I mean be the same person. You should be able to be the same person. There should be a way.
Well, there should be different levels, definitely.
But people fuck up, man. They fuck up and they make mistakes, right? And people also grow. I mean, there's this guy that was on Sam Harris's podcast, Christian Piccolini, I think is his name. He was a fucking white supremacist, a full-on white supremacist, and now he is the exact opposite. He's like this very progressive guy who gives speeches on the dangers of racism and the ideology, how it caught up with him. Now, if he got banned when he was a young man and making terrible decisions and then became a better person, shouldn't we give a guy like that a chance to get back in a platform?
Now, you can see how he's framing the argument here, where it's good to have these very progressive ideas, which is what all these tech platforms have. Twitter, Google, Facebook, all these. That's the side of right. And if someone atones, if they're punished and they atone for it, like this former white supremacist, who, by the way, this guy he's mentioning, he's widely believed to be a fraud. But if someone will go on the apology tour, then they should be allowed back into society, basically. So he's already framing the argument in a very subtle way of progressivism is the side of right, and these other people that practice hate speech or free speech, then if they atone after their punishment, they should be allowed back on the platforms. So he's already framed the argument of good versus bad, progressivism is good, and people that just speak their minds, well, if they don't have certain kosher ideas, well, then they shouldn't be allowed unless they atone for it.
And I think the real problem is when people try to engineer these conversations, and this is another conversation about YouTube. People have said that we're deleting comments on YouTube. We're not deleting anything. We haven't deleted any comments. I don't know how it works. I don't read them. I'm sure people say mean things. Have a good time. The thumbs up, thumbs down thing. Look, we don't have to have that on.
He's so dismissive the way he says, have a good time. Because if you're a critic and you're just trying to have fun and that's why your thumbs down, instead of trying to somehow bring attention to something that he's putting out that is total BS.
There. You don't have to have comments on there. YouTube gives you the option to have comments on and to have the thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm not taking those off.
He's acting like he's doing us a favor. I'm not taking those off. He's just good guy, Mr. Innocent here, while downplaying like the whole thing of why people are upset.
Have a good time with it. But we're not fucking with that. There's something that they're doing that's not, it's not I post at 3:41 and Jamie posts at 3:42 and this is the line of the comments. It's not like that. They've got their own way of doing it.
Here it's hard to know whether he's being totally truthful or not, because it could very well be YouTube manipulating things, messing with it. But he's passing the buck, and he might actually be right here. And maybe he doesn't personally delete comments. Maybe his assistant does, but his assistant says, oh, no, Joe, I don't do that. And maybe it is YouTube. There's no way to know, but he's definitely trying to just pass the buck and not accept any kind of responsibility, which it may not be his fault. It could be his assistant, or it could very well be YouTube, like he's saying.
The question is, why does YouTube do it? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to block out spam? Are they trying to block out hate speech? Are they trying to engineer conversation?
Are you talking about comment order?
Comments on, no, the comments disappear. They go away.
A lot of times it's automatic. If somebody flags a comment, that will just take the comment away until it's like looked over upon.
Only one person?
Yeah. I think on YouTube that happens quite often.
Probably be as little as one or two people, yeah.
So that is probably what's happening to all you folks that think your comments are getting deleted. No one's deleting shit. So if you were upset at this podcast because you thought somehow or another I sold out because I didn't ask him any more questions, I just asked him the questions I wanted to ask. I understand you have more questions, and I do too. I have more questions too, especially upon seeing people's reaction to it and upon, making myself pay more attention to all these various stories. Matt sent us a list of them. Some of them are really fucking crazy. There's some crazy things people have said and not gotten in trouble for, whereas other people said things that really weren't that bad and got in trouble for it. Why is that? That's a good question to ask. So we'll concentrate on that. We're just going to work out a date. So my humblest apologies to all of you. I'm not trying to let anybody down. I always try to do my best. That's it. And also, here's another clear one. No one tells me what to do. There's no secret person behind the scenes. If I fuck up, it's because of me. It's my fuck up. I should have prepared more. I should have thought about it more. But I didn't really.
Yeah, exactly. He should have prepared more. He should have thought about it more, because this was a very important interview. He doesn't even care about his friends. As I pointed out earlier, now he treats his good friend Eddie Bravo like he's some kind of idiot because he wants to disassociate himself from people that are questioning certain things. And when he brought up Alex Jones to Jack, and he said, "Why was Alex Jones banned?" And Jack said, "I don't know." He could have simply said, "Well, if you don't know, why not reinstate his account?" But he didn't do that. All these things with the Covington Catholic kids, where you had CNN hosts, mainstream media speaking out, really trying to get these kids doxxed, trying to get them hurt. Kathy Griffin very actively tried to get them doxxed. Not only are they not suspended from Twitter, they still have their blue check marks. This is very basic stuff that if you didn't do your homework, why even have them on? If you didn't think about any of these very most basic questions that people would have, what is the point if you're going to be so unprepared and just suck up to Jack?
I realized like how upset people would be.
I think you did I thought it was a great interview, and I didn't even think of that. I thought.
This is what I mean. This guy is a total yes man. That's why he chose to have him on as a guest when he's going to explain this right after his controversy. Oh, I thought it was a great interview. Really? With 60,000 thumbs down, do you really think that it's a great interview? Clearly, the public disagrees.
I thought you kind of touched on it a little when you were talking about Alex Jones, and I think that was like, okay, this is what happens.
Well, it's a very specific group of people that are upset. It's right-wing guys.
Right.
Now he's going into this whole argument where he's trying to be dismissive of his critics, where if you see the comments on this video, a lot of people are pointing out that it's not just right-wing people. Even liberals are especially very centrist liberals, very moderate liberals. They have just as much of a problem as any right-winger would have. Here you can hear someone. Censorship has no party or political view. It's wrong. It's the right-wing and alt-right people that are upset. It's an incredibly stupid thing to say. This dude is losing it. Exactly. As a liberal, I too am concerned about opinions being censored on social media. So you can see the people here are not buying this if you actually read the comments. But let's continue. Let's see his further explanation of this, about how it's right-wing and alt-right people that are the only people that are upset. Just alt-right trolls.
A lot of American flags, a lot of Pepe the Frogs. It's alt-right people, which, look, man, easily could have been me at many points of my life. Easily, especially being a troll online. If you're working in some fucking job and you're making Pepe the Frog memes and you're fucking with people, I get it. I get it.
Now, Joe Rogan, again, is being somewhat disingenuous here. That could have easily been me. Joe Rogan, he's been married for a long time, and his wife was married to a black guy before him, and he has stepdaughters that he's raising that are half black. I don't think that this guy was going to, at any point, be part of the alt-right movement.
But the thing about something like 4chan is, you might read some terrible things, but you got to realize you're also reading terrible things from anonymous people that are working at their jobs most of the time, and they're trying to fuck with people's head, and they're trying to get people upset. They're having a good time fucking with people. A forum like 4chan or Reddit or anything, you have so many fucking people. You have thousands and thousands and thousands of people. If you just have 10 cunts posting jokes about black people, that's all you need to ruin the reputation of thousands of people. So for someone to say that everybody that was like, fuck Shia LaBeouf is some racist and a white supremacist. That's a cheap way out. That's a cheap way out. I bet more likely it's some dude who's bored and he's sitting in front of his fucking computer and he works all day, and this is where he escapes. He escapes and types and writes things, then checks them later, and then goes back to it and types things and checks. And it keeps him sane in this stupid fucking cubicle. That's a lot of the people. So they pulled that whole amazing podcast down because of that. Look, what the Shia LaBeouf thing was ridiculous. He will not divide us. Come on. Stop.
What Rogan's trying to do is he's trying to play both sides. And he's trying to appear as though he's also on the side of the right wingers, because he knows a lot of his followers, they are more right wing. In reality, Joe Rogan is very much a typical Hollywood elitist, but here he's trying to show sympathy towards the right-wingers while also smearing them and talking down to them at the right time. Notice he just says, he's trying to say, these working class people, these people that work in offices, that sit in a cubicle, they go online to troll just because they're unhappy with their job. He's doing a lot of projecting, and this is all his imagination of what right-wing people are. Oh, they have American flags, that kind of thing. While he has an American flag behind him.
Now, the like to dislike ratio that you see on YouTube videos is fascinating, right? Because it's weaponized, and they're thinking about trying to ban that now because so many people use it to fuck with people.
See, now he's also buying into YouTube's narrative of why YouTube is trying to get rid of the dislike button, because YouTube Rewind obviously is the most disliked video in the history of YouTube. Anytime the CEO of YouTube uploads a video to her YouTube channel, it gets more thumbs down than thumbs up. And also, he's having these videos now that are getting more thumbs down than thumbs up. And he's totally stating their narrative of it's weaponized. All these scary words. It's weaponized? Really? This is a weapon? You got to be kidding us.
I hate to say this about you folks, but every time we have a chick on here, they get fucking tortured. The like to dislike, right? Like it's ruthless, except Rhonda.
Every time they have a woman, they get thumbs down. Could it be because these aren't just women, but stupid women that he's having on? Just like his most disliked podcasts now, they both have male guests, but he's trying to play the sexism. He's trying to push that narrative that, it's all these sexist right-wingers.
Patrick, except Ron Patrick.
Right, but it's just it's weaponized. They're just going to dislike it because
it's fun. Because
it's fun to hit
it's
that
fun.
thumbs
Look,
down.
It's also fun to throw a rock at a window.
See, look at what he's saying. It's not that, I just completely messed up. He kind of apologized. Now he's trying to also like undo that narrative. He's trying to say, they're just disliking it because it's fun. It's fun. It's not me. It's not me that I was a total shill. It's just that it's fun for these right-wing trolls, these alt-right people.
It's fun. Yeah, I mean, and some of them probably didn't even watch the podcast. It's like thumbs down.
Gives them disliking it gives a little bit of power in the algorithm of de-ranking it. And thinks you affected something.
And people who liked it, there's probably a lot of them that didn't even watch it. It's a button you can press. Yeah. People are weird, but it shows by the amount of dislike that people moved on it and they were upset about it.
So is what we're getting here is typical Joe Rogan trying to play both sides, trying to appear to be this well thought out, moderate person, but it's just more shilling from him. And he labels everyone that doesn't like this as alt-right, which clearly from the comments on this video, people are simply not buying it. But alt-right, what does that even mean? That's just a label that has no cohesive definition, especially at this point, of what that even means. What's alt-right? It's just a silly label. What he's actually doing here is trying to do that argument too of where to shut down an argument, you say your opponent is racist. Well, at this point, that word doesn't mean anything. You're just trying to shut down an argument from someone, and you're trying to label them somehow as bad and you on the side of right. So make no mistake about it. Many like Joe Rogan on the so-called intellectual dork web, like Jordan Peterson, Ben Shapiro, all those types, they're not really rebellious the way people think. They're not really, they're just more like, they're more similar to controlled opposition. they're trying to appear hip and cool and speak in a way that a certain group of their audience admires, but really they're trying to soften them up to get them on board with the agenda.